Welcome to Swartz Talkin Sports, and I'm your host, Les Swartz. Got another great show lined up for you tonight, but before we bring on tonight's guest, let me get on my co-host, Al the Rattler Chester, former quarterback, Florida A&M University, and voice of the Rattlers football and basketball telecasts. Al.
Happy Hump Day. Happy Hump Day, Les. How you doing? Enjoying 75-degree weather here in Jacksonville, Florida.
I was going to say, we're back on Wednesday nights. How nice it is. And how are things going in good old Jacksonville?
Hey, we're trying to keep everything in the middle of the road. We're excited about upcoming events and just glad to be here today.
All right, well, we've got a great show tonight. We're going to bring on a little local flavor for everyone here in the Wilmington, North Carolina area. We've got Randy Slack on Sports, ESPN Radio, also the host of Modern Rock on WRMR 98.7, which can be heard weekdays 6 to 10 in the morning. Let's bring on Randy Slack. Randy.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm good. I got a haircut for the occasion today, so hopefully it looks good on the TV for you guys. You guys got a great setup. It's unbelievable the setup you guys have over here.
Randy, it's looking tight, I got to say, and I love the T-shirt. So you did say you were. And by the way, I got to give everyone out there, they didn't get a chance. There he goes. He's showing it right now. Who didn't get a chance, actually, that maybe not in the area. I did share the link this morning that Randy was nice enough to mention our show multiple times this morning and had me on for an interview this morning as well. And I just loved how we put the whole Boston thing, before I got on the show, he had a little Boston, the band Boston, little intro rolling into my interview. So Randy, greatly appreciate that and really had a fun time doing it.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I try to be, the flavor of my guest. If I got somebody from Pittsburgh on, I might play a little Donnie Iris if we have it in the system. If for Boston, we'll play some Boston, maybe some Aerosmith for you.
There we go.
Glad you enjoyed it.
There we go. No, and I greatly appreciate it. But, well, there's so many things to cover in the world of sports, from professional to collegiate sports all over the place. But, one of the real reasons why I really connected with you is because of the local angle with, Wilmington. And a lot of things going on. We've got a basketball team that, has upset a nationally ranked team early at Kentucky. They've got a shot at maybe making a run through the CAA playoffs and maybe getting a berth in the tournament this year. Baseball coming up. We've got some great athletes in the area. Listen, a lot of people don't realize, Randy, that Michaeljordan played his ball at Laney High School.
Yeah, it's unbelievable when you look at the talent that's come through this area throughout the entire years. And really right now I'm surprised. Like, I've lived here for 5.5 years. It's amazing when it's, a guy like Mackenzie Gore, who's now in the Washington National starting rotation. When you look at a guy like Blake Walston, who went to New Hanover High School as a first-round pick. You got over on your side of the river, over in Brunswick County, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now. I feel bad. Walker Jenkins. Who was a top 5 pick in the Major League Baseball draft. Sanaya Rivers was a 2 or 3 time Gatorade Player of the Year. She plays at NC State, won a national title on the South Carolina women's basketball team her freshman year. Alex Highsmith for the Steelers. There's so much talent that's in this area and it's come from this area recently. It's such a cool area, and you love to see it, man. It's awesome.
Well, let's talk a little UNCW right now because the CAA tournament is going into effect. Now, I'd also want to ask Al, the tournament that A&M, the conference they're in, is that started as well? I know A&M's not in it, but has it started?
No, it starts next week.
Okay.
The last and final game is going to be played this Saturday against Bethune-Cookman University in Tallahassee. We'll be hosting that. Our men's basketball team has had a tough year. Mm-hmm. They are mathematically out of contention for tournament play. They take the top 8, but our ladies are in the mix. They're in the catbird seat, so they need to win on Saturday and hopefully get a bid, be in that top 8 when all the smoke clears and get the tournament play. And anything can happen after tournament play starts.
One and done, right?
One and done. That's it.
Well, let's talk a little UNC Wilmington basketball, the Seahawks. Now, I know you're pretty close to that program, Randy, and I know you have you have people on your show that have the local, the coaches show as well.
Yeah.
Listen, you look at their schedule, and it's really interesting because they've beaten the number 1 seed twice this year in Charleston. As I said, they go on the road, knock off Kentucky in Lexington, which is not the easiest place to win. But yet then they drop games against Elon late. They lost a game to Campbell, I think, in 1 or 2 overtimes. They lose to Hofstra and slide down to 4. Can they rebound? And I know the coach, it said, I'm guaranteed a victory on Saturday, and they did, to slide into number 4. But can they make a run through the tournament? And if they do you think they got a shot at maybe shocking someone at a higher seed in the tournament?
Well, I mean, I absolutely think they do. When you look at this team and you look how they're constructed, they're a veteran team. They've got guys who've been playing there for a while. Coach Siddle has made the conference final the last 2 years. They won the CBI 3 years ago. This is a team that they do well in tournaments. When they have a short turnaround, they know how to kind of win those games. And when you look at March, you look at what kind of teams win. It's veteran teams. It's teams with good guards, and it's teams that can shoot. Now, the biggest question I have with the Seahawks team, they're good at getting turnovers. They're good at running and pressing. They seem sometimes, maybe they're just aggressive on trying to get these steals and getting the splash plays defensively. Sometimes they give up good shooting percentages against them. And if that's going to be, that could be the thing that can hurt them. They don't have a ton of size, but they run so fast and they move people so much that if you have a big guy that can't move, it doesn't matter. He's not going to be able to get down the floor to play defense on these guys because they run and they shoot the ball extremely well. This is a team, like for the first time ever in the history of the school, they have 3 straight 20-win seasons. They've never done that until this year. They've never beat a ranked team on the road. They beat Kentucky, and not only did they beat Kentucky, they removed the floor out of Rupp Arena after that game. They put a new floor in for that game. UNCW beat them, and now the Wildcats are never using that floor again.
Wow. I don't know. What does that say to you, Al, when they remove the floor because a team beat you?
Man, I tell you what, it sounds like they have a great basketball team. Their strategy, obviously, is to run the floor. And they don't care about having big people. They can shoot that ball, put it in the hoop. The object is putting the ball in the hoop more than your opponent, and you can win some basketball games. And being consistent on defense as well.
Yeah, I mean, they beat Arkansas, they didn't beat Arkansas. They played Arkansas earlier this year, and while they lost that game, they scored 90. So this is a team that can beat SEC teams and put 90 on other ones. So if you play this team, and if you play UNCW in the tournament and you don't have good guards and you're sloppy with possessions, you're going to have a bad game. This team absolutely can win a tournament game in March. But again, it's the CAA, and unfortunately, it's a one-bid league. And if you don't win the league, you're not getting into the NCAA tournament. It's so perilous. You got to win all your games.
Randy, give me 1 or 2 players that maybe people aren't familiar with from outside the Wilmington area. If they get through and do navigate their way through the CAA, that get the big dance, maybe 1 or 2 players, one of the top 2 players that you think can really make a difference for UNC Wilmington.
Absolutely. First and foremost, when you look at this team, we've all heard of Dame Time, Damian Lillard. He's always coming through in the clutch when his teams need a play. Shaquem Phillips is Shy Time. That's what they call it at UNCW. If they need a bucket, he's their point guard. He's the point man on defense, and he can drive and he can penetrate. And they've got so many good shooters like Malik Harden-Hayes and KJ Jenkins, who came in from New Mexico last year. They've got these shooters, and he can dribble drive, get into the paint, get a foul, get a bucket, or he can kick it out to these guys where they can shoot threes. And then Trezarian White has been their leading scorer most of the season. And these are the 2 guys, again, seniors, grad students. These are guys that have been in this program a while. These are guys that have had a chance to leave and maybe go somewhere else. They stay with Coach Siddle. They like Coach Siddle. They believe in that program. And Shaquem Phillips, Trezarian White, those are the 2 guys you got to watch when you're watching Seahawks basketball.
Now, Randy, I was going to ask you a question about that. Most of the basketball teams around the country take a big beating from the portal, other opportunities to play elsewhere. This seems to be a team that's kind of stayed intact, if you will. I mean, have they been running and gunning the last couple of years, the same guys?
They've moved around some guys, but the thing is, when Coach Siddle came in, and we hear so much with the transfer portal, you always think about the bad parts of it, where you have to constantly recruit your guys to make sure they're going to stay with your program. But one thing Coach Siddle did when he came in, they were in a bad way. You know, they let go of their coach mid-season. He comes into a program that needed a lot of help, didn't have a ton of guys on that team, and he was able to bring in guys like Trezarian White, Malik Harden-Hayes, KJ Jenkins, and a lot of other guys from other programs. And not only do they bring these guys in, like they're bringing in guys who are grad students. They're bringing in seniors. They're bringing in guys who are captains at their other schools. So when they come here, they're all veterans, they're all mature, and they're all guys who know what's going on and know that there's something special here. But it's been amazing to see Coach Siddle build that team through recruiting and through the transfer portal to really turn that team around quickly.
When would their first game be played in the CAA tournament? Would it be this weekend or?
Yes, they get a double bye because they got the 4 seed. They really needed to win that game on Saturday. If they lost to Towson on Saturday, they move to a 5, which gets you only 1 bye. This gets them 2. Okay. They're the 4 seed. If they win, if it goes chalk, they're going to play Charleston, a team they've beaten twice. But at the same time, Charleston's the number 1 seed for a reason. Yeah. Charleston was a 13 seed in the tournament last year. They were a top 25 team at points in the season last year. They are a really good team. And to try to beat those guys twice or 3 times in the season, you know, it's really going to be tough.
Well, we're going to be looking forward to seeing some of that. I know hopefully it'll be televised locally. We get to see a little bit of this action here.
Yeah. I believe the conference semifinals and finals are on CBS Sportsnet.
All right, we'll definitely
those will be on national TV.
Yeah, we're gonna have to check out a little UNC Wilmington basketball this weekend.
Absolutely. Where are they hosting it? Where's it being played?
It's being played in Washington D.C.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
In D.C. Now you're wearing the T-shirt. Explain. Because we got on the air and I was like, okay, I like the T-shirt. Yes. Don't know who the team is. Maybe explain, who that is and what league they play in and things like that.
Well, the Wilmington Sharks are a collegiate wood bat league, which basically just means they're using college guys and they're playing with a wood bat, and like they would be in the major leagues. A lot of guys from all over the place. They might get a few guys locally, but honestly, these teams recruit from all over the place, and they're getting dudes who, I mean, look, you're a college guy. You're a baseball player. Where do you want to go for a few weeks in the summertime? Wilmington, North Carolina, that's a pretty good place to spend your summer as a college baseball player. And they play in the Coastal Plains League, who most famously, you may have heard of the Savannah Bananas. Okay. They do the banana ball. They do some gimmicky stuff. They do a tour with that. But in addition to the tour teams that they have, which if you haven't seen banana ball, you absolutely need to go out of your way to see it. It's a unique way that they play baseball. But in addition to that stuff, they're also in the Coastal Plains League. It's teams from Morehead City, from Georgia, South Carolina, all over like this southeastern region. And the city of Wilmington supports it. People love going out to the games. They're family friendly. They have like 36 different home games during from the mid-May through the 1st of July. Last year, they made it all the way to the championship game and lost in the final. But it's a fun time, and it's as close as we have to a professional sports team here in Wilmington right now.
Well, our chat girl, Joni, has heard about it. Al, Joni's heard about the Savannah Bananas.
They were in Jacksonville last weekend.
Okay, yeah. They do stuff. I know they were in like Durham. They played at Durham Bulls Park, played some different games there. It's unique. They make the banana ball, which is different than obviously what the Sharks play, but the banana ball tour that they do, it makes baseball fun. Like if you, instead of a walk, like a guy has to run to first base, and if they can throw him out, he doesn't get it. And if a fan catches a ball in the stands, it's an out, and all this crazy.
Wow.
There's music playing, guys are dancing, a guy will be on stilts throwing pitches off the mound. Like it is an absolute spectacle of a baseball game.
So Randy, this league that you're talking about, this is an opportunity for baseball players to keep the skill sharp, but at the same time expose themselves to maybe some scouts and get other people see them play. I mean, is that the whole premise behind this particular summer ball? Absolutely. Yeah. This is a chance for college baseball players to get some more reps in. Maybe,
you just want to get some more at bats. You want to get some eyes on you because, again, if you're a scout, you have a great chance to see guys from all over the country right in one spot, all playing wood bat baseball, which is what they would be trying to play in the major leagues. There are guys that have played for the Sharks that are now on major league camps right now in spring training. So these are, it's a lot of high-level guys. There will be some UNCW baseball guys on that team. There will be other guys from all over North Carolina and other places. But North Carolina baseball, whether it's the high school level, whether it's the collegiate level, this is an absolute – it's a hotbed down here. There are so many good teams. If you want to see high-level baseball and you're in Southeast North Carolina, you're in a great spot. There's so much good talent around here.
I'm curious to know, is it anything that is – similar to, I'm from the Boston area, the Cape League, which is, arguably known as maybe the greatest wood bat league during the summer, where everyone comes. Is it similar to something like that?
It absolutely is.
Okay.
Yeah. It's similar to like the Cape Cod League for sure. Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
I forgot you're the Boston guy. I should have just said that. And you would have been like, got it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Hey, listen, I've seen Summer Catch. Come on. I know about these things.
Yeah.
Okay? But hold on. Freddie Prinze, pitching to Ken Griffey Jr., that's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit of a stretch. But we touched on the local angle. We've done a lot of things, and obviously we're going to be following UNC Wilmington in the coming, through the weekend. And let's just hope that they make a big push. They get through the CAA, and they really get into the big dance, because I think at that time that would be huge, and we could really cover that. That would be outstanding. I know your show would do a tremendous. Now, if they make a push in the dance and they do something, are you going to take this show on the road? Or are you going to be? What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I don't want to jinx it, but I've already kind of been thinking about, their tournament, if they win, their tournament's over on Tuesday. That gives me about 5 days to plan what I'm doing on Selection Sunday.
Okay.
And then whatever they're doing in the first round of the tournament, they could – who knows? I don't know where they're going to be. I don't know if the station's going to pay for it. I might see if, you guys could help me out a little bit. Maybe we'll take the whole show on the road. We'll go to wherever.
Tony would produce that show. Tony would produce that show. We can make that thing happen. We can make it happen. But, well, listen, we've got so much to talk about in sports, right? And, after the first break, we'll bring Benny the Book in. But, with just so much going on in the world of sports, especially in college, right? Look what's happening here. You've got, the NIL, that's the hot button, right? Everyone's talking NIL. I know Al and I have talked about it at great length, about should athletes really get this? They deserved it. Yeah, I think they deserve to make money, but is it really in the true spirit of what NIL is, right? That's name, image, and likeness. And is it really happening that way, right? I mean, it seems to me that it's like boosters throwing money at people and coaches saying, yeah, well, it's going to cost me $3.5 million for starting quarterback, $1.5 million for a running back. I mean, I don't think that was the way it was intended. Al, I'd like to get your input on that, because, I mean, you're going to slot guys, money value for the position they play. I mean, is that the way this was intended?
I don't think it was intended to be this way. I think it's, like we said before, it's out of hand at this point, because there's so much money and so much opportunity for youngsters to get resources for their lifestyle, for their parents, and for their families. But you got players and athletes who make more money in college than they would probably playing professional sports. And we talk about Caitlin Clark, for example. I'm sure she's over $3 million playing basketball, and we know the top salary in the WNBA is less than $250. But it's until they can get their arms around this thing, the NCAA may not be an NCAA after a while. I mean, I think but the intent, I think, was to ensure that college athletes got paid. I'm all for it. I think they should. Coaches get paid. It's a different day now. It's a different avenue. You got NIL and you got the portal. So you got kids who feel entitled. Some of them feel entitled anyway. But it's an interesting time in college football, college athletics across the board.
Randy, let me ask you this. So you talked about a little bit on your show this morning about there's reports out there that Fox was going to offer an NIL deal to Caitlin Clark. Al's correct. $3.1 million, 11 NIL deals, and the average WNBA salary is $113,000. Highest paid players making in the $240 range. She would be taking a step down, leaving Iowa and going to the WNBA. If you're her agent, What do you tell her to do?
I mean, look, maybe it depends on if you win the national title. You know, they're a very good team, but they have lost a few games this year. So, you know, winning a championship is tough. And that may not be in the cards for that team, and that may not have anything to do with her. But it's just the NCAA tournament running and winning all those games is extremely difficult. But at the same time, like, if you're already the leading scorer in college basketball history, men or women, what more do you really have that you can do? Now, granted, you could probably make a little bit more money, you know, staying in college for another year. And we saw that the ratings for the Ohio State game were higher than NBA ratings. Like opening night of the NBA didn't do as well as the Iowa basketball team. And I think the biggest thing out of all this is she's absolutely shown that, you know, women's basketball can be a big marketable sport. You know, this is a sport where I think a lot of people look at it and they're like, you know, the men's game's here and the women's game maybe is a little less. But she's proving that, you know, if an athlete is incredible at the sport, if she has a great an athlete has a great personality, we want to watch him. We as Americans want to see greatness, and she's absolute greatness. And I think whatever league she goes to, if it's the WNBA, which I imagine, or maybe Europe or whatever, she's going to draw some good money and good ratings for that league.
I mean, Al, the range this girl has. I mean, she steps over half court. She's throwing up 40-footers like the female Steph Curry. And the amazing thing about her, which really intrigues me, is not only is she a tremendous scorer from, you know, 3-point drives, but she's 6th all-time in assists, which means she gets her teammates involved in the game. It's not like just a run and gun and she's a one-on-one ISO player, right? She gets other people involved and makes them better.
Yeah, she's a big-time team player. I mean, she can fill it up, no doubt about it. I read where she would practice, she would shoot 400 or 500 balls a day. But you don't just get good like that waking up in the morning. But she's gifted, she's talented, and she's got a bright future. But I tell you what, she, just like Randy said, I mean, she's putting a bright light on women's basketball for sure. And whatever direction she ends up going, it's going to be a good one. And she's going to get paid for what she's doing.
But here's one thing, Randy, we did find out doing a little bit of research, and I know Al's going to elaborate on this. Is she really the all-time leader in scoring?
Well, I tell you what now, there was a young lady named Frances Marion back before the NCAA. She played in the AIAN, and she actually knocked down 4,061 points. Now, that's a long time ago.
Wow.
Not trying to throw any shade on Caitlin, but I tell you what, Caitlin is a hell of a ball player. Frances Marion did the same thing long time ago. And then, of course, she just surpassed Pistol Pete. Now, Pistol Pete did it in 3 years, and there was no three-point range to shoot that ball in. So, but not throwing any shade.
Right.
But Caitlin is a tremendous basketball player. But there have been some people who are just natural shooters, and the object of the game is to put that ball in the hoop.
If we're talking about pre-NCAA or non-NCAA stuff, I have to tell you, I'm from the middle of nowhere in southern Ohio, and there was a guy at the University of Rio Grande, I think in the 50s or 60s, by the name of Bevo Francis. And Bevo Francis had, I think, like 134 points in one single game. I met him one time. He looked like Abraham Lincoln. That dude was old and big, but I was like, oh my God, like this is the guy who has like 1 million points in one game. Like it's unbelievable, but it's an NAIA school. So technically his records don't count.
Right.
I was going to say, I know it's pre-NCAA, and I know we're talking about NCAA at this time, right? But
it doesn't take away from what they did. They did accomplish.
Absolutely.
True.
I mean, whether you want to sanction it or not, they did it. It was documented. But again, I know that we like stuff that's documented and all sanctioned by the NCAA.
Now, how about this, guys? Now, how about this one? University of Dartmouth men's basketball team, Ivy League. I know it. They vote 13-2 to unionize and become employees of the school. No more student athletes. Going to join Service Employees Union Local 560, a big union. This This could really change the face of college athletics if it trickles down to the big sports like football and big-time Division I basketball. Your thoughts, Al? You played college basketball. If you came in and someone said to you, "I want to unionize. Let's unionize the football team right now," what do you say to that?
I'll tell you, I'm scratching my head, man, because that's a total different spin completely on college athletics.
Absolutely.
I mean, because all the rules of the game change. You know, my question, I was going to ask Randy, and not to sway away from this one, was, do you see a lot of the NIL type stuff in college baseball?
Interesting.
Yeah, as far as with college baseball, I do know that there are some guys that host hitting camps, like baseball camps for kids. And, you know, before you weren't able to do things like that. So, you know, if in the off season you wanted to teach some kids how to hit, you weren't able to, or you had to do it for free. So this is a way for those guys to make some money doing that. I am interested in it, though, and seeing how it goes, because of all the bigger sports at UNCW, nothing against the swimming and diving team, which is incredible. The men's tennis team at UNCW is great. But the men's baseball team is one of the better teams in the country, and they produce Major League Baseball talent out of that team. So I could see if NIL deals were to start becoming more prevalent in college baseball, that absolutely guys at UNCW could be on that for sure.
But now when you start talking about unionizing and doing things like union workers and be employees, that's a whole different spin. And unless, I tell you what, I'm still scratching my head, don't have any hair up here, but I mean, it's difficult to even think about how all that would work. And because the priority can't change. I mean, the reason you're in college is to get an education.
It used
Obviously,
to be.
You're a student. It used to be, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, but now you're taking collective bargaining into this. You're going to start negotiating. Dartmouth, I think the school has a number of days to actually fight this and take this to court. These are predominantly seniors that are doing this. To, you know, freshmen and sophomores want to continue this on at Dartmouth, or new recruits come in. I mean, they're trying to unionize an Ivy League Players Association, these guys at Dartmouth, and get every single one of the Ivy League schools involved, not just in basketball, but in football, track, you know, every kind of athletic event in the Ivy League. So, I mean, I think this opens up a lot of things. You know, listen, NIL, you know, the thing's got to be capped, okay? It's getting out of control. This whole transfer portal thing. I mean, you've got guys now going to 4 different schools in 4 years. And to your point out, are they student athletes anymore? Nah. I don't think they're student athletes, because a lot of these guys don't go to school to get an education. They go to school to further their athletic endeavors and become a pro. And if they're getting paid to go to college, you know, to do this, I mean, is it really amateurism anymore? Isn't it professional?
Well, there's a requirement in college where you have to meet educational standards to go to the next class,
right,
or next grade, if you will. And I think that some of that educational piece has to be taken care of, whether they go into school or it's taken care of for them, any way you look at it. But you got some players who are going to be in this NFL draft who played for 4 or 5 different teams.
Yes.
You got guys who played 6 years. And back then when I played, you got 5 years to do 4. You got some guys now, man, that are 22 and 23 years old that's going to be drafted. Some that are even 24, 25 years old. So it's a different day for sure.
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Randy.
I think the biggest thing is the NCAA needs to actually finally address this. Right now, it just keeps going to courts. Athletic directors are going to Supreme Courts, and Congress is talking about this. The NCAA needs to realize what's happening and kind of get in front of this. And I don't think that necessarily unionizing and having a players association for college football is a bad thing. I think if we go into this and we're like, okay, look, we're going to have NIL deals, and like in the NFL, like in Major League Baseball, we're going to report what these guys are making. You know, if you sign a contract in MLB, they know you make 5 years, $100 million. If a student athlete at Texas signs a deal with a local car dealership for $500,000, we should know those kind of things. And then also, in addition to setting these salary caps or whatever we do with this kind of stuff with the players, there should also be some give and take on this. It's like, hey, guys, we're going to get you a set amount of money if you're playing in the Big Ten, you're playing at Penn State, you're playing in Alabama, whatever. But, oh, by the way, if you're here, your contract says you're here for 3 seasons. You're here for 4 seasons. And then if someone wants you to go somewhere else, they're going to have to buy you out of the contract. So then if you're at Alabama and somebody else wants you to go to Oklahoma, then Oklahoma's got to pony up and give $1 million to the other school to get you to transfer. That, I think, the players will get more money, and we can have some sort of semblance of what our teams are going to look like. And it's not every year going, well, how many guys are hitting the portal this year? How many guys are staying? There needs to be somebody at the NCAA needs to realize that this isn't going away, and it's only going to get worse if they don't step in and actually do something about it.
Randy, I like it. Slack for commissioner.
No, honestly, that's the other thing.
No, you're the first person who's really brought this. This is good. This is really good. I think you're the first person who's really talked about it to that extent, and I think that I can see that coming to fruition. I really can. If it's unionized.
Yeah, I mean, again, like the college football animal is controlling everything else that's going on. And it's ridiculous because, like, I saw with the ACC, they've got Stanford and Cal and SMU in their league now.
Yeah.
And now they're changing it where, Carolina won't play Stanford on the road and Cal on the road the same year. They won't make them travel across the country twice in a year. They don't want to do that to the football team. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, if you're on lacrosse, if you're on the track and field team, guess what? You're traveling. They're making all these sports that aren't generating the football revenue spend so much more money on travel. Let those teams be in the old regional conferences they were in that make sense. Let football be its own animal and let all the big teams, whatever they want to do. If you want to play a team in California and then in New Jersey and then in Texas the next week, God bless you. It's your call.
Well, we've got a couple of questions. We do have a couple of questions. We've got Joni back in the house. So before we go to our first break, we do have a couple of questions. So let's throw it over to Joni and let's have those questions.
Thank you, Les. So Rob asks, is Drake May the real deal, and who should draft him?
All right, Randy, you're a North Carolina guy. I've got my own take on Drake May. What's your take on Mr. May?
Look, I like Drake May. He's a guy who produced, and everybody loved Phil Longo, the offensive coordinator at Carolina. And then Phil leaves for Wisconsin, and now it's like, what's Drake May going to be like without this magical offensive coordinator? Well, he was still Drake May. Now, having said that, I liked Dre. Maybe I am a little bit of a homer because we do carry Carolina football on ESPN Wilmington and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is, we don't really know with these guys. Like, no matter how good a guy looks in college, depending on what the situation is, depending on who his coaches are, like, if Patrick Mahomes went to the Chicago Bears, is he still the Patrick Mahomes we're seeing in Kansas City? Are you sure? Like, we don't know. If C.J. Stroud was the first pick instead of Bryce Young, is C.J. still the Rookie of the Year? Probably not. That offensive line sucked. Yeah. It's so hard to say. I like Drake, but – man, I don't think he falls out of the top 4. I think he's one of the first guys taken.
Well, you look at the measurables. He's got the size, he's got the arm strength, he has the ability to run. The only concern I have, Al, about Drake May is he put up huge numbers, but in games that came down to the end, it just seems like he didn't make a play. Whatever reason, the pass wasn't completed, and he got his guy back. They had Randy, what was his name? The one who sat out?
Tez, Tez Walker.
Yeah, Tez Walker. He got him back, and they hooked up. But when it came down to the very end, they kind of fell apart at the end of the year. They lost 2 or 3 games where he couldn't dig them out of a hole. And maybe that's a little bit of a concern for a pro team that, the guy didn't win those games coming down to the end. Your take on Drake May, Al?
Well, I tell you what, I think he's a super talent. He's got the size. He has all the measurables. He can make all the throws. I'm like you, though. I think that most of the success of quarterbacks who leave college and go to the league, they usually get a lot of snaps. Now, he's only played. He's got another year eligibility in college. Obviously, he's gonna opt out because he's rated one of the top 5, 4 or 5 quarterbacks. But he's got to go to the right system. It's all timing, luck of the draw. When it comes to these quarterbacks, I have to look a guy in his eye and see if he's the guy that can do what we need done. He's coming out of a great, like Randy talked about. He's got a great offensive coordinator. I like his head football coach. He actually, I called the game when we played them about 3 years ago up in Chapel Hill. Florida A&M played North Carolina. He was a freshman. He came in and he threw it around very well. He's got all the stuff that you want, but it's luck of the draw and going to the right system, being in the right system, and under the right type of scheme that's going to benefit him and highlight his skills and talents.
Now, Rob, to that point, going to the Patriots at 3, I think the Patriots need a lot of help on offensive line. And if Drake May went to that team as constituted right now, I don't think he succeeds. I don't think anyone does. I think the Patriots have a lot of work to do on the line. They've got to get weapons on the outside to complement a quarterback like that. I know a lot of people are talking about maybe Jaden Daniels slipping to 3 or Drake May. I don't know. If you're the Patriots, I don't think a quarterback solves that situation early. I know Mac Jones' career is pretty much shot. I mean, they ruined his confidence. Bailey Zappi's not the answer. I don't know. Maybe they get a second, the quarterback from the Baltimore Ravens, Huntley. He is not re-signing. He's a nice little dual threat quarterback. Maybe if you're the Patriots, you take a chance on him as a placeholder for a couple years. Maybe you bring in Jacoby Brissett, who's been with the Patriots before and hadn't been successful, before you go to a guy in the top 3 and throw him into the fire. I would not want to see a top 3 guy. Like Randy, like you just said, the offensive line at Carolina is absolute garbage, and Bryce Young had no chance to succeed this year. None.
No, he really didn't. Yeah, it absolutely does start up front. Rob, I see he says, I'm hoping they sign Baker Mayfield. I'll tell you this: if you want a guy who's a little on the short side and who can sling the rock, I look at trying to get, maybe again, being a homer, I love Sam Howell and the work he did when he was in Washington. The little bit of time, the guy made some mistakes, but you know what? We see so many guys. I have so many friends from Pittsburgh who saw Kenny Pickett dink and dunk and never take shots down the field, never take chances. So many guys are afraid to take chances. They don't want to turn the ball over. I think a guy like Sam Howell, who's willing to take shots, who's willing to be aggressive, if you get him better coaching, I think he can really be a guy you can take a flyer on and pay a lot less than a Justin Fields or something, and maybe something can happen for that guy. I really like Sam Howell, but he's short and chubby, so people don't like him.
So aren't I, but people like me. Great question, Rob. Let's go to. I know we have another question too. We got another question. Let's jump to Joni for one more.
Okay. We Stu Deflison, he actually has a comment, and you guys can expound on it. Yeah, okay. There you go. It looks as though Caleb Williams' father will likely cause issues. Thoughts?
I haven't heard anything about. I know someone said something about him coming out and wanting to have a piece of the team, or I don't know what's going on there. But have any of you guys heard about anything with Caleb Williams' dad being involved in this?
I heard that
I did read the same thing that his father said he wanted a percentage of the ball club that drafted his son. So I mean that's about it.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
I've also heard him say his father, I believe, is the one who said that Caleb has 2 shots at the apple. In other words, saying if he doesn't like the situations he's in or where he could be getting drafted this year, he could theoretically, I guess, go back to school. Now, this was during the season, so maybe it's probably too late to do that now. But it seems like, they were a little non-committal of being like, well, if a bad team's on top, we can pull a super Eli Manning or something and do something else.
I was going to say, it used to be if you signed with an agent, you were ineligible to come back. But I think now it's I don't know if that rule is in place anymore.
And I don't know if he has an agent or if his family or friends are the ones who are doing his representation. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, we've got a lot more to talk about. Obviously, the NFL Combine was just this past week, and there was some records set. I want to talk a little bit about the Combine. I want to talk about what's going on in the NFL, some NBA news, and I also want to get in the next segment your take. I want to get Al. I want to get Randy. I want to get the book's take on greatest sports upsets, greatest sports dynasties, and maybe some records that will never, ever be broken. We're going to do that when we return after this.
Forever 24 Fit, Leland's only gym with 24-hour access. Get fit when it's convenient, utilizing Life Fitness, cardio, and weight machines. And for those of you who prefer free weights, there is a free weight area as well. Start your membership today and get on your way to a better you. 6 Happiness. Enjoy fresh Asian cuisine in a relaxed and friendly atmosphere where we believe good times deserve great food. Featuring the best sushi chefs in the Leland area. So come on in and we guarantee you will be delighted.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz, joined as always by the Rattler, Al Chester. Our special guest tonight, Randy Slack, ESPN Radio Wilmington, and also Modern Rock 98.7 WRMR. And look who we got. We've got the book. Betty the Book has entered the fray. So we had a lot of things going. Before we even start, guys, with you, our last week's guest, you might be able to see this right here, Jeremy Roenick. We said it's going to be our crusade to get JR into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Al, you're not a big hockey guy. Even you looked at the stats and said the guy needs to be in. We got to get the Hockey Hall of Fame to induct JR. What do you say?
I tell you what, he checks all the boxes, man. He should be in the Hall of Fame. It's criminal that he's not, but great show we had with him last week, and hopefully we can help influence some folks and get him taken care of.
And I'm going to hit this thing up every single week. By the way, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We're close to 700. I think we're at 698. So hopefully Randy puts us over the edge today. And obviously, we're question and answer. We've got Joni here live asking the questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. But we got the book in the house. So, Benny, the Giants, your hometown Giants, do not tag Saquon Barkley. Is he gone? Does he go to the Chargers? What's the deal?
I would say that he's going to be gone. I don't think he's going to go to the Chargers.
We love him.
They said what?
We'd love him in L.A.
Houston Texans.
Wow.
Houston Texans. I was doing a little research today, and the one thing though that I do hear from a lot of people is he really wants to stay. He wants to be a Giant his whole time, but money talks. And I don't think he's gotten the love that he's got to feel bad. They spent all that money on the quarterback, Jones. He ain't gonna work out. But it's a team they got a lot of problems. They got to get an offensive and defensive
starts
line.
Up front. Really That's what Al always says. It starts up front.
When the Giants were good, you know better than anybody. They took your Patriots down. That defensive line.
You have to remind me every single time I see you.
And their offensive line, they always had good running backs, but it was their offensive line that gave these guys room to run. And OJ Anderson, a lot of guys.
So we got this. Randy, you got Xavier Worthy. Had a great year at Texas. Guy goes out and blazes a 4.21 in the combine. All of a sudden, does that put him up in the top 10 or top 15 because he ran that 4.21?
Well, I believe, if I'm correct, and I could be missing somebody, but I believe he broke John Ross's record. John Ross, the wide receiver. Former Cincinnati Bengal, a guy that the Bengals reached for because, golly gee, he was so fast. And I'm just saying, look, he may be incredible. And I don't want to say that every guy who's really fast is John Ross. But at the same time, buyer beware on this. It takes a lot more than running a straight line really, really fast to be a high-level ball player. But it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt if you can run a 4.21. People are going to look at that. And if push comes to shove and you're picking between two guys and one guy's the fastest dude to ever run a 40-yard dash in a combine, I'm probably going to go that way.
And here's my thing. And Al and I talked about this earlier. And the combine, this is my problem with the combine. I understand the measurables. I get it. But like John Ross, to your point, John Ross really never put up huge numbers at the University of Washington at all. Comes in, blazes, that amazing time, gets picked in the top 15, I believe, right? He's a first-round pick. He
top
flames
10.
out. Yeah, top 10. The guy was obviously undersized, could not run a pattern, didn't have great hands, and he was gone. I think he's out of the NFL in 4 years, right? He was gone. Al, you have to have production in college. And to Randy, you just said you running a straight line. You have to be able to get in and out of your breaks. You got to be able to get away from press coverage. There's a lot more than just, running 40 yards straight down the field. You got to be able to catch the ball in traffic, right? I mean, if you're a scout and you're looking at a player and you're drafting a guy, doesn't production have to be the top priority of what he's done in college?
Absolutely. And I tell you what, running straight, it's a whole lot different than running on the football field. Football speed is a lot different than track speed. You've got to be able to catch the ball if you're going to be a receiver. They get excited about the fast times because speed, you can't coach speed. I mean, that's a gift that's given to you. And everybody wants that guy who can run the fastest. You want that fast wide receiver. You want that fast cornerback. But you have to be productive in college and showcase your skills. That's just one of the boxes to be checked off. But, everybody wants to be that great scout to find that next great football player, just like at quarterback. Caleb Williams, I think, is an exceptional quarterback, but everybody sees him as the next Mahomes. That may not necessarily be true. I think the kid at LSU may be like Lamar Jackson. He's taller, but he can sure fly and he can make all the throws. But how does that translate from college to the pro game? And that's just, it's luck of the draw. You really have to do a good job on scouting these kids. But that speed thing, it excites everybody because it sounds good and it's a wow factor. But what you need is someone who can, Jerry Rice, the GOAT, if you will, 4'6" guy, the best that ever did it. But he didn't have blazing speed, but he never got ran down. Emmitt Smith, same thing, didn't have great speed. And then you've got Ronaldo Nehemiah, who was a track guy.
Yeah, I remember
Bob
that.
Hayes was a track guy. Those guys were effective football players, but they weren't. I mean, Bob was great, obviously, but Ronaldo had that speed, but sometimes he wasn't going to catch that thing. But it's luck of the draw. But you got to showcase your pass catching skills, your route running skills in college. And then if you can do all that and run that 4-1, 4-2, now we might be looking at something.
I remember when the Niners brought in Ronaldo Nehemiah. That was a short-lived experiment. I mean, he had never played really football since high school. He ran track and field. I think, did you ever see Maryland, Ronaldo Nehemiah? I want to say. I'm not sure, but that didn't work out in San Francisco. Guys, Kirk Cousins, does he stay with the Vikings? Does he go to Atlanta? Do the Patriots take a flyer on this guy? What's the deal with Kirk Cousins?
What is the deal with Kirk Cousins? Like, what? I don't. He's fine. He's okay. I guess if your team's really good and you want to just get some stability at quarterback, he's a good option. But I can't imagine anybody in the NFL going, man, you know what? We were just going to maybe get the divisional round, maybe get to the conference finals. But now that we have Kirk Cousins, now we're the Super Bowl favorite. Now we are our odds to win. Like, again, nothing against the guy, but right. I compare him like to if you're playing blackjack, Kirk Cousins is an 18. 18's a good number, but a 19 to 20 to 21's beating it. Are you betting all your money on an 18? No, you're going to win more money than you lose on an 18, but you ain't winning all of it. That's for sure.
He's a stat.
Randy, I co-sign that, your commentary, man. I tell you what, I think Kirk Cousins is just an above average quarterback. He'll get you to the door, but he ain't going to kick the door in. And I didn't see that in Washington. I didn't see it in Minnesota. And like you, I don't think nobody's going to be beating his door down saying, hey, come sign with us because you're the guy we need.
Now, he's had opportunities. I mean, he had good teams with Washington. He had good teams in Minnesota. I mean, he had weapons all over the place in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And still could not get his team over the edge, over the top, right? Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And to think that a guy like Kirk Cousins and a guy like Baker Mayfield apparently are going to be the next guys to be in that $40 million quarterback club. Like, when you think about that and you look at a guy like Mahomes who's making 50, or Aaron Rodgers or Joe Burrow, if they're making 50, and Baker Mayfield and Kirk Cousins are making 40, I think you're getting a pretty good deal on Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes at $50 million if those guys are worth 40.
Absolutely, yes.
And by the way, Randy, I know you're a Cincy guy. I listen.
Yeah.
We had Irv Smith on the show earlier last year, and his son Irv Smith Jr., obviously tight end with the Bengals, and we were kind of lamenting at the Bengals not using the tight end in the offense. I don't know if that was either that wasn't the plan or Irv's hands weren't as good, but I'm a huge Joe Burrow guy. If you haven't noticed, I have an LSU helmet. I have to bring it on. I'm a massive LSU fan, and what he did, transferring from Ohio State and put up, I think, the greatest season in college football history, and then pretty much taking Cincinnati, a team that was called the Bungles for so many years, and look what they did. I think that's the one team that matches up with Kansas. Kansas City does not like to see Cincinnati come on. I mean, whether it's in Kansas City or not, the Bengals seem to have Kansas City's number. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, and I believe they've met 3 times, and Joe Burrow, or in the 3 meetings with Joe Burrow versus Mahomes, Joe Burrow is 2-1.
Yeah.
And 2 of those are in Kansas City. 2 of those were AFC Championship games. He's really remarkable on a lot of different levels. But when you think about the fact that they had that production on that team, he had Jamar Chase, he had Justin Jefferson, and it would easy to be like, well, this is a guy who just had a ton of talent around him. How good is he really? For him to come in there and play for a team that stunk, that's been terrible, that's never been good as long as I've been alive, it's really crazy what he's been able to do with that team. And I got to give Zach Taylor credit. I didn't like him for a while. I was a little I thought he was just hired because he was friends with Sean McVay and he's young. But he's done a great job to turn that team around because, man, like when you lose for those many years, when you've been bad and you're on that graphic of longest playoff drought and you and the Detroit Lions are the only teams on that thing in the 90s still, it's really amazing what they've done with that turnaround. And it just goes to show that when you get a right quarterback and you build in free agency and you draft well, you could really turn the team around pretty quickly.
How in the world?
Guys, they have got to shore up that offensive line. Joe Burrow has been sacked too many times.
Oh, yeah.
Joe won't be around long.
Right.
Playing the way they're playing right now. He's an outstanding quarterback with a big upside. But I tell you what, if you don't have anybody up front to block for him, push people around, give him time to make those throws, it's going to be all for nothing.
Well, I was going to say,
starts up front, like you say.
140 times he was sacked in his first 2 pro seasons. That's not knocked down. That's sacked.
Yeah.
And then he got injured. Right. He hurt his knee in his rookie season when he was really playing well. I think it was in the 9th or 10th game. How in the world does a guy like that get beaten out at Ohio State? He was the 3rd-string quarterback. How does that happen?
Again, maybe it's just a guy who didn't fit a style. Maybe it's just a guy who a coach doesn't see what other people can see in him. You know, like we never know. We talked about drafting guys, and you never know what's going to happen. And if a guy's going to, do well in the right situation. If Joe Burrow stays at Ohio State, what if he just goes in the 6th round? What if he's Brock Purdy?
I know. And
he's a guy who seemingly comes out of nowhere because he never got the opportunity. It's crazy to think about.
All right, guys, I'm going to flip the switch right now because I want to get into this because I've always wanted to talk about this on the show. We haven't yet. And now we've got Randy, we've got the book, and we've got Al. I want to go through all of yours. What are your most favorite upsets that you've ever witnessed in pro sports? I want you to tell me. We've compiled a little bit of a list, and our crack producer, Tony, has got some awesome video we'll throw up in a little bit. But let's start with our special guest tonight, Randy Slack. So, Slack on Sports, give me 2 or 3 or 4 of your top all-time upsets.
For me, the first one has to be Virginia against UMBC, a 16 versus 1 matchup in March Madness, because those never, ever happen. Like, it's not like, that team was really good and this team wasn't as good and they just had them. Like, we've gone forever. And when everybody's filling out their bracket, you're just going, all right, well, I'm going to put the 1s in the 2nd round and then I'll look at every other team. It never happens. Mm-hmm. And then the fact that it happened again, honestly, I'm a little annoyed that Purdue lost last year as a 1 versus a 16 because I feel like it cheapens it a little bit.
Hold on. Did it break your bracket? Did it bust your bracket?
No, okay. I didn't like Purdue very much. Okay. So it it didn't hurt me too much, but it's insane to think that a 16 can beat. I mean, a 1, you're playing with so much talent. You're playing with NBA level talent. You've played in a big conference against big teams every week. How in the world do you lose to a 16? That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. So obviously 1 versus 16 there. My take on the Virginia thing is, yeah, it was an upset, but Virginia's offense is never good. Randy Bennett's teams do not score a lot of points. And if anybody's going to be upset, I think they were ripe for the picking. Granted, I never knew who the Retrievers were. UMBC, sorry, Baltimore fans out there. I didn't know who they were. But Al, what's your biggest upset? What do you think in all of sports that you've seen? What's your biggest upset?
Well, I got a couple of them. I got a couple. The first one I got to mention is in 1979. After FAMU won the national championship, we played the University of Miami. I was in Toronto. FAMU upset the University of Miami in Tallahassee. I think that was a big upset. That was huge.
Who kicked the winning field goal in that game?
Coleman kicked that field goal.
Vince Coleman.
And we won 16-13. And Vince went on to have a great career in Major League Baseball, still stealing bases. He probably could steal some bases right now. But Tyson and Buster Douglas, I thought that boxing match to me was a huge upset. Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. Ali Foreman, I was a big boxing fan as a youngster growing up. I thought that was a big one. Of course, the Jets and the Colts back in '69 for that Super Bowl victory in Miami.
Some really good ones, and we're going to run some film on some of them. Benny, what about your top upsets?
I got a few in college basketball. The NC State Wolfpacks against those Houston Fly Slamma Jamma. I mean, they have 2 of the top 50 players on that team. You know, Clyde and Elijah one.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big upset, and that'll be forever. Valvano, he was amazing. That was amazing, and not only it was the prior games for them to get there. Every game was like, right, you know, a major upset. You know, they weren't really that good that year. I mean, they had some good ball players, but they weren't expected to do what they did. And my Notre Dame Fighting Irish when they broke UCLA's 88-game win streak.
Oh my God, we can never go in there with Notre Dame or West Virginia. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Was that John Shoemate and Adrian Dantley?
Adrian Dantley, yes.
All right. Yeah, I'll give you that. Okay. Well, if we've had enough time for Toner to cue it up, I don't know if we're going to. I
was going to mention my New York Giants also against your New England Patriots.
That wasn't so much of an upset. I like the Giants matchup in that one. All right. Listen, I'm going to trump you all right now because I'm sorry. The greatest upset in sports history, and not just because it's a sport that I love, but if you look at, you got to put it in context that Team USA beating the greatest hockey team in the world. This Russian team was beating NHL All-Star teams. They beat the Canadians that won the Cup. They beat the Flyers. They beat the Bruins. Okay? This was a team in Team USA that 2 weeks prior, here it is right there, Mike Eruzione scoring the greatest goal in American hockey history. There's no denying that. They had lost to the Soviets 10-3 2 weeks earlier, you know, in Madison Square Garden, in a game that wasn't even that close. And just people don't know this. USA won this game 4-3 and were outshot 46-16. Jim Craig basically stole the game. But that has got to be the greatest upset in sports history.
Absolutely. You hit it right on it. You hit the nail right on the head.
I mean, Randy, you weren't even alive.
I know. I wasn't around for it. It's crazy to think, though, that was just the semifinal. They had to play again. Like, right. How do you have such an emotional game and finally get over the hump? And then it's like, oh, wait, now we have to do this again against another team? Like, how do you come up with that energy? But I guess, you know, as a Boston guy, you could think of, you know, when you guys came back from 3-0 to the Yankees and then when you know, that was such an emotional series. And then it felt like the World Series was just, well, here we go. This is easy peasy.
Well, and Al, you've been around, obviously, you've had legendary coaches, you know, Coach Hubbard, legendary coach that maybe gave speeches. Herb Brooks, the coach of Team USA, gave, I think, probably the most incredible motivational speech. They were losing to Finland in the gold medal game. They were down 2-1 going into the third period. He turned around, went back into the locker room, and said, if you lose this game, you'll take it to your effing graves. Your effing graves. They went out and steamrolled Finland. I mean, talk about wanting to go out and play.
If you don't mind me throwing this in here, not to say that I'm a great motivational coach. I only coached when I played varsity basketball. I had to coach the middle school teams that played, and there were 4 teams. There were 3 good players, and we didn't have any of them on my team. We were the worst team. Well, the best player in the 5th grade league was a kid named Mike White, and Mike was sick, and he wasn't playing that game, and we were losing 13-12 at the half. And I told my guys, I said, fellas, look, Mike ain't out here, and if you don't win today, we ain't going to win all year. And they went out there in the third quarter and doubled their point total, and we won like 35-20 or something. I turned them around and just said, this is your only shot of any sort of victory, and we pulled it out.
You're a motivational machine, Randy. You're a motivational machine. Well, here's a couple upsets. And I know Al talked about a couple of them. Benny talked about a couple of them. And I know Tony's going to run a few. Probably the best NCAA basketball upset. I know people talk Villanova, Georgetown, but NC State beats unbeatable Phi Slamma Jamma on a Low Charles dunk on the last play of the game, where they basically play keep away. You watch this. They're playing keep away. You know, Wittenberg throws it up, and look at this. He wins it on the dunk. And you see Valvano running around trying to hug somebody, anybody. He's trying to just hug somebody. I mean, that's got to be just an incredible, incredible upset. You know, I know Villanova, Georgetown was a big one, but I got to look at that one. Probably you got to look at the New York Jets, and Al, you brought that up. And I think the reason why is because it was an AFL team that beat an NFL team back in the day. They were considered inferior, a 17-point underdog, and there's the end of the game right there with the Jets. Weeb Eubank beat the Baltimore Colts from the NFL, the establishment, right? So yeah, that was a huge win. I mean, Benny, you're a Giants fan. You didn't even like the Jets, did you?
No. I didn't like Jet fans. I had a few very close friends that were Jet fans. Same thing as the Mets. You know. People trying to, you know, talk about the Mets. I mean, come on, you know. Well, they're the second team in New York. They're not the Yankees.
They're second-class citizens. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Your boy
definitely.
Gary's not going to be too happy. He's a big Mets fan.
That's all right. I beat him again today.
All right.
He's
the only guy I know that plays in the rain. He plays in the snow. He plays golf whenever he can play. The guy's unbelievable. Here's another big upset that we talked about. Al, you brought it up in boxing. You got the unbeatable Mike Tyson, the aura of invincibility shattered in Japan by one Buster Douglas. And here's a couple of good shots. Here's when he takes out Mike Tyson. It was beautiful, beautiful. Combination and then a big right hand. Watch this. Boom, uppercut, and there's the right hand. Takes him out. Mike doesn't know where he is, Al. What do you think about that? You remember where you were when you saw this?
I watched that, man. I tell you what, Mike, I think, took Buster for granted. And Buster came in, and he wanted that thing a little bit more than Mike. And I tell you what, he caught him with some haymakers. And that was one of those rare moments you see Mike Tyson on the canvas.
Unbelievable. And he was like unbeatable. I mean, he had fought Leon Spinks. I think Leon Spinks was done before he even got in the ring when he fought that time.
Right. Yeah, he definitely
he was shaking.
He had that look in his eye all the time when he went. You know, when he lost Gus, though, that's when his career started to, you know, go down.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
All the boxers that fought Mike, they were beat before they got in the ring.
Yes, they were.
It was over.
Yeah, they were scared of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he had that intimidation factor. You know, comes in with the black tights and no shirt. We do have one more reel as an upset, and this is a biggie. This was in 2005. This is Appalachian State. Is a 30-plus underdog against the number 4 team in the country at the time, Michigan. And amazingly, Michigan's going to go. I mean, this thing shouldn't have got to this point. They go for the field goal and the win, and watch what happens. App State, North Carolina's App State Mountaineers. Guy blocks the field goal, gets tackled, game is over. They run out the clock. It's over. Appalachian State. Randy, people still talk about App State's big win against Michigan.
Well, I mean, it was a real jump-off point for that program because at the time, they were in the subdivision, and now they're, a D1 team, and they're very competitive. And, that whole thing, the monumental nature of that game, because Lloyd Carr left Michigan shortly thereafter. They were kind of scrambling and really didn't have an identity or a good coach until they got Harbaugh for a while after that. So much stuff happened, and it really set up the fact that there's good football even at the not in the big Power 5 FBS schools.
Now we're going to talk a little sports dynasties. People like to talk about dynasties and which were the greatest sports dynasties, which sport, the reasons for that. So Tony's going to throw up a little montage of some of the greatest sports dynasties that I could come up with in recent times. We'll go through them. I mean, a lot of these were, before I followed sports or anything like that. But you got the Celtics that did something that I don't think will ever be done. 11 championships in 13 years. I mean, will anybody be able to touch 11 championships in 13 years in the NBA? I don't think so.
No.
That's going to be a challenge.
Yeah,
I think the Celtic dynasty and the Yankees, those are two dynasties that they're not gonna. Well, the way the fabric of sports today, teams don't stay together. Right. Those teams, those players played for years and years and years, and they were good.
The Yankees thing pains me, Benny. I have to admit it, but I'm not a Yankee fan at all. I'm a Red Sox fan growing up, but the Yankees had it from like 1927 to 1960. Unbelievable.
I'll drink to that.
You drink to that team. Oh, yeah. Why don't you tell them who got you that awesome mug?
Oh, this is my buddy Les.
That's
Les
right.
got me this.
Right. That's right. You got the Canadians, who from 1954 to 1978, I don't know, won 15, 16 Stanley Cups. You got UCLA men's basketball team that I think had won 10 in a row in an 88-game winning streak. That'll never be. No one's going to win 88. UConn women's team did. The UConn women's team did, but I don't think a basketball team, any kind of college team, is going to win 88 games in a row ever again. You've got the Patriots in modern day. I mean, what they've done from 2001 to 2020 is unprecedented. I mean, Mahomes is doing some amazing.
9 Super Bowls in 18 seasons.
9 Super Bowls. I mean, that's just incredible when you think about it, right? I mean, and when they didn't win the Super Bowl, they were in the AFC Championship game.
Right.
I mean, just incredible.
They were there. They were there for the long run. They were there every year.
Again, when you look at those Patriot teams too, it's not just how good they were, but you look at, Baltimore had some great teams during that time. Mm-hmm. The Pittsburgh Steelers had some super teams. Yep. You had Peyton Manning spend his entire career in the same conference. Yep. He was pretty good. Yeah. Like it's insane that many other good teams. It wasn't like they were the only good team in that side and they could just beat up on weak teams. All the tough teams were in the AFC, and they continuously were there at the top, and they did it with different guys. The constants were Brady and Belichick, but, they were that defensive team early, and then they went vertical with Randy Moss and those teams. They didn't win, but they made it. And then, we're going with the tight ends and throwing to the tailbacks and just constantly evolving that team. Like, it makes sense that they stink now. You can't be good forever.
Well, let me ask you this. So obviously, Al, I don't know if you were a Patriot fan or appreciated them. Benny couldn't stand the Patriots. Randy, I know you're a Bengals guy, but from a non-Patriot point of view, does the fact that they had Deflategate, they had Spygate, does that take away anything, in your view, from that dynasty?
From where I sit, no. I think they were a great football team, and I think the prognosticators and the haters, they would find something wrong whether it happened or not. Bottom line, they won 9 Super Bowls in 18 years. You can't take that away from them, whether it was Belichick or Brady or the combination of the two of them. What a great organization during that period.
Guys.
Yeah, I mean, again, with the, when you have the Spygate and then you continue to win after that, when you have Deflategate, you continue to win after that. You can put asterisks by people, but then eventually if they overcome it, like Michigan this year, people were talking about all the sign stealing and all that stuff. Everybody was watching them with a fine-tooth comb at the end of the season. And they beat all the best teams they played all year when everybody knew, hey, we got to change all our calls because maybe these guys have cameras and they've been videoed. If they're able to do it when we all know that they're trying to overcome this and that we all think that they're cheaters, if they win then, like, you can't really say very much after that.
Right.
No.
I'll tell you one thing, Harbaugh, I am so glad. I am not a Harbaugh fan, Jim or John, but I'm so glad that my Chargers, Randy, I've switched over allegiances. I'm actually a Charger fan instead of a Patriot fan. I have been for a little while, but I'm really psyched that the Chargers have him. Maybe he can straighten out that team. They've got Justin Herbert, who is, I think, a tremendous talent, and they've got some weapons, and I think that was really head coaching that has really held them back. I think Staley, I don't know, some of these fourth down calls he made were just absolutely mind-boggling to me. So my hope is that he gets the Chargers straightened out. Before we go, and again, I want to thank our very special guest, Randy Slack, ESPN Radio Wilmington, who, by the way, if you have not heard the show, check it out. It's awesome. It's a daily listen to me now between 11 and 12. So it's pretty awesome. And I love Modern Rock. So I don't know, Randy, I might be wearing you out every day listening to Modern Rock and sports radio when I should be doing my work, right? Is some of the records that maybe will never be broken in sports, whether it's team records or individual records. And I just throw things out there like maybe a Major League Baseball player never hitting 400 like Ted Williams, or a 56-game hitting streak by Joe DiMaggio, 100 points in a game by Will Chamberlain, who also averaged 50 points and 25 rebounds. Wayne Gretzky, 202 points in a season, where if you get 100 points now, it's a big deal. That guy had 202 points in a season. The 88-game winning streak, obviously, by UCLA. Maybe we can talk a little bit, we've got a few minutes here before we wrap up, a couple of things that you think will never, ever be broken just because of the way sports is nowadays, the way the rules are, and just the way the game's played.
Cal Ripken.
Yeah.
Consecutive games. No, guys, they play 2 games and they say they got to rest. They got to rest.
Good point.
Load management. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It really is.
Randy, you have a few that come to mind?
The Cal Ripken was the first thing. So many baseball things are going to be hard to break now just because the way, pitchers are used. The guys are only throwing, 6 innings. And even if you're getting a ton of strikeouts, if you're only throwing 140 innings a year, you're not going to get to 3,000 or 5,000 strikeouts. Like, it's just impossible to get to some of those numbers on the baseball side. When you look at Emmitt Smith and the career rushing yards, who runs the ball that much, right, let alone who can be that effective, to be that good for that long and that durable. It really is absolutely remarkable, the career. He doesn't get enough credit. And I know his offensive line was great and the receivers and the quarterback and everything was good around him. But to be that good for that long really shows just how good Emmitt Smith was.
How about Ricky Henderson, 130 steals in a season?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the bags are bigger now. So, Ricky would have 250 with the rules these days.
Yeah, do you have
Randy, I was going to echo the same thing about Emmitt Smith. Emmitt ran the ball just as hard in the third and fourth quarter as he did in the first and second quarter. And obviously he had that great offensive line. But the game has changed so much now, I don't know if any running back will even come close to his yardage rushing in the National Football League. Tom Brady's passing yards, I think that's going to be a challenge. Him and the quarterback from New Orleans who threw for all of 50,000 yards. Drew Brees. I think that's going to be a challenge. And then the one that stands out to me the most is the Dolphins went 17-0. I don't know if there'll be an undefeated team like that in the National Football League ever again.
Hey, Les, just recently, wasn't the Oklahoma Sooner girls softball they just got beat, right? A week ago?
I know they had this insane winning streak where they didn't lose for I don't know how many years.
For like 3 years. I don't think they lost for like 3 years.
Did you put money down on that game at all?
No.
I'm shocked.
No, they would be too big a favorite. I had the underdog. I've been losing for the last 3 years. I finally won one.
Guys, I got to say, he calls me up last night and he's like, Les, what do you think about the Oilers against the Bruins tonight. I go, Benny, please don't use me as a litmus test for this because you're going to lose money. But that's why we call him the Book, ladies and gentlemen. He's Benny the Book, But
hey, halftime, your number one team is UCF second half, 37-31, beating the Houston Cougars.
Oh boy, all right. I like that team. We're going to come back. Well, we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little college basketball with the Book and with Al Chester. We're going to review our top 10 for this week. But we're going to have a special guest, Randy Slack. Randy, I so much appreciate you, first of all, coming on the show. Second of all, pubbing the show today like you did and having me on. So super excited to have you. We hope to have you back. I'd love to have you back, a recurring guest every few weeks. If you have the time, we'd love to have you, about the local angle, but just about sports in general.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on the show. It's I got to get a better backdrop. I do radio, you know what I mean? I'm not much for the visual medium. So I did get a haircut today, but I'll work on my lighting for next time. Maybe get one of them fancy ring lights, get one of them microphones like Les got over there. But yeah, thank you guys for having me. And again, Slack on Sports, 11 to 12, weekdays, ESPN Wilmington. If you want to hear the Diary of a Madman, rslack37 on Twitter. You can tell when I'm watching a Bengals game because it gets real snarky on there. But thanks for having me, guys. I'd love to come back on the show.
Awesome. Well, Randy, thanks. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you, Randy. Take care. We'll get to one of them Wilmington Shark games too.
Benny, I need your help, man. I've been doing stuff with FanDuel, and I do have to do picks every night. And I'm like 1 for 5. I got NC State Duke minus 149.5. But I'm missing everything else. So I clearly need your guidance when it comes to the arts of the handicap.
You got it. We'll get together and we'll discuss some things.
Randy, I got to say, if it's wagering, you got to go with the Book. He does know what he's talking about. But again, special thanks to Randy Slack, ESPN Radio Wilmington. We'll be right back with Al Chester and Benny the Book, college basketball after this.
Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition, Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz, joined by the Rattler, Al Chester, and Benny the Book. Hey, guys, Randy knows his stuff. Good interview.
Yeah, very good.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Sharp guy, man. I tell you what, I bet he's fun to listen to, man, and very knowledgeable across the board in sports.
Al, I'm going to forward you his show site so you can actually stream it. It's really pretty cool. So he does an awesome job. He hits the local scene hard, but he got the national scene as well. So I'm going to share out ESPN Wilmington Radio with Randy with Slack on Sports. We're going to do that with all my friends and all our viewers as well. So, but right now, guys, let's talk college basketball. I know Benny brought us up on a game that's going on right now. I want to have Tony reveal our newly minted top 10 Swartz Talkin Sports Power 10. And let's see what we got here. We got I'm keeping the UConn Huskies at number 1. I took Purdue, guys. I moved them ahead of Houston for one reason, because they had a big win over the weekend against Illinois, at Illinois, a really, really good team. Houston, great defensive club. They can score. I got Tennessee. I think they're the best out of the SEC right now. Iowa State in a very, very contested Big 12. I got them at number 5. You got to go with the Tar Heels and the Blue Devils out of the ACC. Carolina's starting to really pick up steam, and Duke's looking pretty good. Newly added to the top 10, we got Creighton with a big win over Marquette last week. Arizona, I got falling to 9. And then I got Baylor. I got the Bears in the Big 12 in it. They're pretty consistent, battle-tested. Coach Drew does a great job with that team. They won the championship a couple years ago. any surprises, guys? Anybody that you might want to put in there other than the top 10?
Les, tonight's a big game. They got Tennessee's at South Carolina. South Carolina, I touted Tennessee. I told you they were the SEC team to watch. South Carolina has a better record than Tennessee.
But they haven't played the tough opposition that Tennessee has.
They played the same teams.
Now, off conference, out of conference, Tennessee had a very tough schedule.
Yeah.
South Carolina kind of padded their schedule early.
But they're in a tight ball game tonight, and they've beaten some very good teams. But I like your Baylor in there because I think the Big 12, Iowa State, Kansas. I know you dropped them out, but they just had a big win the other night against Kansas State. They really put a hurting on them. And I love UConn. I really think they're gonna go all the way again. They're gonna repeat.
Al, any surprises?
No, not really. I mean, when you look at the top 25, Houston is number 1 at 24-3. UConn at number 2. Purdue at number 3. I like Purdue's big guy, the big guy, Zach, the 7'4" guy.
Zach
Edey. Yeah, you're right, Al. He's a real force that teams they're gonna have a hard time, handling that guy. I mean, if he gets around the basket, he's very, very, very tough to stop.
If he gets around the basket, he's gonna be impossible to stop. You got Tennessee at number 4, 21-6. Arizona 21-6 at number 5. Iowa State 6, North Carolina 7. You got Marquette at 8, Duke 9, and Creighton at 10. So it's like musical chairs with the top 25. So Les, you're right there in the mix of things. This should be an interesting time. Right now, everybody's probably wanting to win that last couple of games before they get ready for tournament play. And we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I think it's all about the seeding right now for the tournament conferences play, which starts this weekend at most of the major conferences. I know you got UConn now. Tonight's a big game. UConn, consensus number 1. Actually, Houston's number 1, but I got them at number 1. They're at Marquette. Now, they embarrassed Marquette in stores a couple weeks ago. Yeah. I have a weird feeling, Benny. I know you're high on UConn. I love the Huskies. I think if everything equal, they don't have any injuries, I think they win this thing because of the talent and the coaching of Danny Hurley. I think he's a tremendous in-game coach. I think Marquette pulls the upset. I know they don't have size. I think Cam Jones lights it up. I think they throw up 35 three-pointers tonight, and I think Marquette pulls the upset. Watch out. They'll lose by about 50, but I just have a weird feeling Marquette's going to pull the upset tonight.
Yeah. I was looking at some of the teams, and you remember you said, is there any surprise teams that you might? This team last year, they I think if I'm correct, I think they finished in the Final Four. Florida Atlantic.
Okay.
They're having another good year this year. They're not first in their conference.
The Owls.
But they got a big center. They got a big 7-footer in the middle, and they got great perimeter shooting. They shoot the eyes out of the basket. And in the NCAA tournaments, it's all about guard play and who's going to shoot free throws.
I agree 100%.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that because Betty's right. You get inside of 3 minutes, you get a chance to go to the line and ice the game away. You've got to make your free throws. And I think my biggest gripe with upsets and why teams, and then I'm going to get to one other thing Benny and I talked about today and get your opinion on it. But when teams get down to the end, they're playing a certain style and they've got a very comfortable lead. And then all of a sudden they start to pull it back and they don't run their offense and they hold the ball and they wait with 1 second and throw a bad shot up. And all of a sudden a 9-point or 11-point deficit is down to 3. They play like not to lose. Why do teams do that? Just continue to run your offense and continue to do what got you there. Why in the world would you all of a sudden with 4 minutes to go stop doing what made you successful and make bad shots and run the clock down and throw crazy shots up? What makes these teams do that?
Well, you see teams take on the personalities of their head coaches. And I've seen a boatload of games, just like you're talking about. You could be up by 10 or 15 sometimes, and teams are trying to find ways to manufacture points. You got that shot clock that you got to be conscious of, but at the same time, you need to go ahead and play clean basketball. Teams are going to fire you, and I always say if they're free, you got to make them and take them. You got to take them and make them. Those free throws, they become crucial because teams are trying to manufacture points in hopes of getting the ball back with opportunity to score. And if you got guys who can shoot, you can shoot your way back into a basketball game. Now, why they do that, why they slow down, I have no idea. I mean, it drives me crazy, when you see teams who are up by 10, 15 points, and within, a couple of minutes, a minute and a half, it's a game where it's up to a bucket they could lose.
Yeah, especially with that 3-point line, you get a good shooting team, and they start hitting those 3-pointers. That 15-point lead could be gone in 2 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, guys,
so I tell you what, anything can happen once you get to tournament play. It's one and done, and just like you talk about FIU or FAU or whatever school it was, or Florida Atlantic, when you get a basketball team at the big dance, it's a tremendous opportunity. That's their special time, their special moment. They want to take advantage of it, and anything can happen.
Well, listen, Loyola or Chicago made a run one time. George Mason made a run one time. I remember Norfolk State made a run. I mean, like you said, one and done. You're hot at the right time. Maybe the other team's best players don't play. Purdue, Zach Edey, Fairleigh Dickinson was all over him last year, surrounded him. He didn't do much, and Fairleigh Dickinson pulled the upset. So I think when we have our show next week, the picture will become more clear as far as the conference tournaments, what's going on. So, and we're going to tease a little bit of our guest next week. We're not going to publicize it too much, but we might have a very special guest next week. We'll tease it a little bit. But, well, guys, let's see what happens tonight's games. I appreciate you guys coming on. And, Al, keep holding it down in Jacksonville. Good luck to the Rattler women this weekend.
Yes, sir.
And
we appreciate that.
The book, as always, you're number one in my heart, my bud. So let's hope you end up on the positive side of the wagering tonight, and hit them straight tomorrow. I know you'll be out there playing. So
8:10 tea time.
8:10 tea time. I'll be working or doing something, making coffee for Joni, and we'll be doing something there. But you guys have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the upcoming weekend, and we'll see you on Wednesday. I'll be back with the wrap after this.
Millie's Ice Cream Shop, a full-service store in the Waterford Shopping Plaza of Leland, offering an array of tasty treats, including both hard and soft ice cream in a variety of flavors and delectable combinations to appeal to even the discerning palate, assured to put a big smile on everyone's face. Stop by today to enjoy your satisfying experience.
Welcome back to the wrap. Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. Again, very special thanks to Randy Slack on Sports, ESPN Radio Wilmington. He was outstanding. I love to get the local angle of the local flavor of what's going on in Wilmington, and he's got the pulse. Man, he's got it going. So I appreciate Randy coming on. As always, Al the Rattler Chester, Benny the Book, Joni, our lovely chat girl, back in the house. We've got Tony the Tiger Smeraldi. We've got a little special tease for next Wednesday. I'm not going to totally commit to it, but it looks like we could have a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer on. We'll let you know a little bit later this week, but it looks like Wednesday, 7 o'clock, we are on for a show, and we'll talk a little bit more college basketball at that time. So for everyone here at Swartz Talkin Sports, I'm your host, Les Swartz. Have a great week, everybody. Clear.